Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we even get started today, and I'm telling you right now, you are going to want to strap in for this one. I need you to do a quick favor.
Yeah, please do.
Hit that like button to make sure you're subscribed to the show. It really helps us keep the lights on, and it helps us get this kind of heavy-hitting analysis out to you. And trust me, today's topic, it is heavy.
It is. We are looking at a text that doesn't just challenge the status quo, it effectively declares war on it.
Right. We're diving into the ebook titled Insidious Subversion, Satan's Hegelian dialectic siege machinery of cultural Marxist positional war.
Quite the title,
It's a mouthful.
but
By Conrad Riker. And look, I know that title sounds like a doctoral dissertation from the absolute darkest corners of the internet,
yeah,
but the content itself is incredibly direct.
very direct. And it's crucial to frame this correctly for you right off the bat. Riker makes it very clear in the preface, this is not a self-help book.
No.
It's not therapy. It is not about, healing your inner child or finding your bliss. He literally describes it as war reporting from the front lines of a cultural revolution.
Yeah, he explicitly says, if you're looking for a safe space or like a TED Talk about the power of vulnerability, put the book down.
Exactly.
This is written for what he calls the learner, specifically for men who feel like something is fundamentally structurally wrong with the modern world.
Right, so if you're part of that red-pilled audience, or you follow men's rights issues, or you just feel like the deck is stacked against you and you can't quite figure out why.
This book claims to explain exactly how that stacking happened.
And we should clarify, our mission today is just to report on what's in this source material. We aren't endorsing the viewpoints, we're just unpacking the author's arguments impartially.
Right, we're breaking down the ideas. The book promises a forensic dismantling of the systems, education, law, media that the author argues have been captured by feminists and Marxists.
Before we really get into the weeds, though, a quick heads up, we can only cover so much in this deep dive.
Yeah, there's a lot.
If you want the full arsenal of information, all the case studies, the specific laws, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books and buy the ebook.
Seriously, check Amazon Kindle and Google Playbooks to get the source material, because we are gonna move fast.
Let's unpack the core thesis. Riker argues we aren't living in a patriarchy at all.
No, he says we're living in a gynocracy,
Right.
which is a word I honestly hadn't heard before reading this.
It's his term for female supremacy disguised as equality. And Riker argues this wasn't an accident. He points to a mechanism called the Hegelian dialectic.
This is the insidious subversion part of the title. I remember hearing about Hegel in, Philosophy 101,
Right.
but how does Riker apply that to modern culture?
Well, stripping away the academic jargon, the Hegelian dialectic is basically a three-step process for engineering social change. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis.
Okay.
Riker argues the modern application is step 1, create a crisis, whether that's gender, race, climate.
Right.
Step 2, manufacture a victim. And step 3, offer a solution that permanently shifts power.
And his argument is that the solution always shifts power away from men.
Exactly. The synthesis, the final result, is always a transfer of authority and resources from men to the state or to female-centric institutions.
And this creates what he calls the double bind for men, which I found really relatable to what a lot of guys talk about online.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this idea that you're trapped no matter what you do.
The book lays it out clearly. Men are told to be sensitive, right? Open up, share your feelings.
But then they're mocked for it.
Exactly. They lose status with their partners when they actually show vulnerability.
Yeah, and on the flip side, they're told to be providers. Man up, work hard. But then they're punished for being absent fathers or taxed heavily for working too hard.
Or told to check their privilege in the workplace while simultaneously losing their rights in family court. Riker says it's a game where the rules change in real time depending on what makes the man lose.
And he insists this isn't just random bad luck, it's institutional capture. He's talking about schools, HR departments, the legal system.
Understanding the history of our institutions before they were captured is a huge theme here.
Right, and I want to structure this chronologically, basically tracing the life of a modern man as Riker sees it, because it starts early. It starts in the classroom.
Chapter 3, The Schooling of Submission. This is a tough section. The author argues that modern education treats boys essentially as defective girls.
Defective girls. Wow.
Yeah, he says the system pathologizes normal male behavior energy, competitiveness, rough and tumble play, and tries to medicate or discipline it out of existence.
He gives some wild examples, like the 7-year-old in Oregon.
Oh, in Beaverton.
Right. He got suspended. For what? for pointing his finger like a gun.
It was interpreted as a violent threat.
He's 7. I mean, every boy I grew up with did that. And then there was the 9-year-old in Minnesota.
That one was striking.
He was in show and tell, and he said, "I'm the king of the jungle."
Yeah.
And the school mandated counseling because they said it displayed problematic power dynamics.
It's the reframing of imagination as pathology. Riker points out this is part of what he calls the no bullying complex.
But isn't stopping bullying a good thing? Like, inherently.
In theory, sure. But Riker argues that anti-bullying measures have been weaponized to rebrand normal male hierarchy behaviors, teasing, wrestling, dominance displays, as abuse.
I see. So by criminalizing normal male conflict resolution, you stun them.
Exactly. You don't teach them how to handle confrontation. You teach them to run to an authority figure, usually a female teacher, to solve it for them. And the statistic he cites is fascinating. Boys in single-sex classrooms have 40% fewer behavioral referrals.
Wait, 40% fewer. So they aren't actually bad kids.
Yes. The argument is they aren't behaving better per se, but they aren't being misjudged by female teachers who interpret male energy as a threat.
When you remove the gynocentric gaze, as he calls it.
Right. In a male-only space, they're just boys. They understand the hierarchy. But in the mixed system, they are labeled toxic.
And then you have SEL, social emotional learning. I see this acronym everywhere now.
Riker calls SEL psychological warfare. He argues it's designed to turn boys into anxious, compliant husks.
Because it forces them to articulate feelings in a way that's unnatural for many boys, rather than teaching stoicism or resilience.
It rewards those who can mimic the emotional language preferred by female teachers. It's training for submission, not leadership.
So you've got boys being crushed in school, told their instincts are wrong, then they graduate and they hit the economy.
The feminist economic trap.
Right. And Riker argues the war continues there.
The book highlights a massive shift in the economy over the last few decades. The destruction of male-dominated industries.
Manufacturing, steel, mining.
Jobs where physical strength and risk-taking were actual assets. They've been replaced by the rise of the female-dominated public sector and service economy.
And the book claims this isn't just market forces doing their thing.
Riker argues it's policy. He says female employment is treated as a moral imperative by governments, while male displacement is just ignored.
You have quotas for women in boardrooms, massive initiatives for women in STEM.
But no one is asking for quotas for men in nursing, HR, or teaching.
So the economic floor falls out from under men. But let's say a man navigates that. He gets a job, gets married, has kids. Then he runs into the buzzsaw of the family court system.
Legal kidnapping.
Yeah, he does not mince words there.
This is probably the most visceral part of the book for fathers. He breaks down the best interest of the child standard. It sounds great on paper. Who could argue with that?
But Riker claims it's a blank check for maternal preference.
It allows judges to use vague criteria to justify giving custody to the mother, regardless of the father's fitness.
And he brings up a specific law in California, AB 1298. This one absolutely terrified me.
The adult child support law.
Yes. Child support accruing indefinitely for adult children.
Under this law, child support can continue even after the child turns 18 if the adult child claims emotional dependency.
So a man becomes a walking ATM for a capable adult.
Simply because the mother or the child claims they aren't emotionally ready to be independent. It's financial warfare disguised as care.
And it's not just family court, it's the whole legal framework. He talks about Title IX on college campuses.
The concept of guilty until proven rich.
That phrase alone is brutal.
That's a reference to the erosion of due process. In these campus Title IX tribunals, the standard of evidence is incredibly low. Preponderance of the evidence.
Which basically means 51% likely. Not beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. Riker cites the University of Michigan case, where a student was expelled based on a single handwritten note from an accuser who later admitted she lied.
And the Harvard student suspended for a text message.
The theme is survivor-centered justice, which the book argues is just code for bias against men. If you are a man accused, the machinery is designed to chew you up before you even get a chance to speak.
It's heavy stuff. And what's interesting is that Riker says, to understand this, to understand how institutions got captured like this, you have to look at history.
Chapter 14, the suffragette myth.
We're taught that the history of women's rights is this peaceful, noble struggle. But he completely flips that script.
This is going to be controversial for a lot of people, but Riker insists on looking at the primary sources. He argues that the suffragettes are taught as peaceful protesters attending tea parties, But in reality, the WSPU,
The Women's Social and Political Union.
yes,
Yeah.
they conducted orchestrated arson campaigns.
Yeah. He lists them out. Burning down cricket pavilions, golf clubhouses, even churches.
And the 1912 smashing of West End shop windows, including Harrods, Riker flat out calls them terrorists.
And his point here is to draw contrast. Right?
Yes. He compares these wealthy women destroying property to the working class men who were dying in the trenches of World War I.
That's the earning the vote argument.
Exactly. Men got the vote largely because they were conscripted to die for the state. That was the trade. You risk your life, you get a say in the government.
But women, according to Riker, got the vote through a campaign of violence and public shaming, without the corresponding sacrifice of military service.
And he creates this visual contrast between the statue of Emmeline Pankhurst and Winston Churchill.
Oh, right. The statue of Pankhurst, who orchestrated bombings, stands tall in London.
Meanwhile, the bust of Winston Churchill was removed from the Oval Office, celebrated by some feminist groups as striking a blow against toxic masculinity.
Riker says this is a deliberate rewriting of history to make female violence empowering and male stoicism toxic.
Speaking of stoicism, that brings us to the psychological aspect, because the war isn't just in the courts, it's inside our heads.
Chapter 12, The Attack on Stoicism. This connects back to that double bind we mentioned earlier.
This section had the story about Ramirez, the Marine.
Right, a veteran with PTSD seeking treatment at the VA.
According to the book, Ramirez was told he must cry to receive his medication and treatment.
Wow.
The argument is that the therapeutic system demands emotional performativity. If you don't perform sadness the way a woman does with tears and verbal vulnerability, you aren't healing, you're repressing.
But Riker cites a study that says the exact opposite.
A study from JAMA Psychiatry. It found that men who suppress emotion repressors actually had lower cortisol levels and longer lifespans.
So Riker uses this to argue that Stoicism isn't a pathology, it's biological armor.
It's how men are built to survive trauma. By forcing men to open up and cry, the system is actually breaking down their natural defenses.
It's the manhood mirage. Society screams, men, open up, be vulnerable. But the second a man actually breaks down, he gets the ick from women, or he loses respect at work.
It's a trap designed to weaken him. And Riker expands this trap to the entire planet in his chapter on environmentalism.
The cult of environmentalism.
Misanthropy with a recycling bin.
That's the line that stuck with me. Misanthropy with a recycling bin.
It is evocative. His argument is that environmentalism targets male-built civilization. Oil, mining, construction, infrastructure.
Things built by men.
These are male-dominated fields that physically built the modern world. The Green Movement frames these activities not as progress, but as inherently evil or destructive domination.
He talks about the rewilding movement in Germany, where activists called roads phallic symbols of domination.
Which sounds ridiculous.
I mean, it sounds funny when you say it out loud, but he's saying they actually want to deconstruct the physical world men built.
And it goes darker. He brings up the voluntary human extinction movement.
Right.
The argument is that men are always the ones told to stop reproducing, or that fatherhood is a failed evolutionary experiment.
That was a quote from an Oberlin College seminar he cites.
The message is clear in Riker's view. Men are a virus on the planet.
So, if you're listening to this, we've covered the schools, the courts, history, psychology, and even the planet itself turned against men. It feels overwhelming. Does Riker offer a solution? Or is this just doom scrolling in book form?
He does offer a solution, but it's radical. It's in the final segment, reclamation. He doesn't suggest voting harder or complaining more. His solution is simply walk away.
This is where he talks about MGTOW, right? Men going their own way.
Yes, he highlights high-earning men who are opting out of marriage and dating entirely.
Not because they can't get dates.
No, because they've done the risk analysis on the legal and financial liabilities of modern marriage and decided it's a bad deal. They look at the divorce courts, the walking ATM laws, and they say, no thanks.
But he goes beyond just checking out. He talks about building parallel institutions.
This is the constructive part. Riker says, don't beg for fairness from a system designed to hate you. Instead, build your own.
Right. He calls for brotherhood opposed to therapy.
He tells men to rebuild their bodies. Literally, lift weights. Rebuild their minds by reading history.
The real history, not the captured textbook version.
Exactly. Mentor young men. Create value.
He basically says the system isn't broken.
That's the final red pill. The system is working exactly as designed. It is designed to extract resources from men and transfer them to women and the state.
And once you realize that, Riker argues, the only winning move is to stop playing by their rules. Create value, but keep it within your own circle.
Precisely.
Wow. Okay, let's take a breath. That is a lot. And I want to reiterate, we have really only skimmed the surface of the data and the stories in this book.
It's a dense text. Insidious Subversion is relentless. It piles fact upon fact, story upon story. It's designed to overwhelm you with evidence of this positional war.
If this conversation sparks something in you, if you're nodding your head, or even if you're just angry and want to see the evidence for yourself, you need to read the full text.
You really do.
Go to Amazon Kindle, go to Google Playbooks, and buy Insidious Subversion, Satan's Hegelian dialectic siege machinery of cultural Marxist positional war. Yes, type the whole thing in. It's worth it to get the full arsenal of facts.
And you should follow the author, Conrad Riker, for his ongoing updates. You can find him at conradriker.substack.com. That's at Conrad Riker on Substack.
Before you go, do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the podcast. It helps us get this information out to more listeners who might be feeling the same way you do.
It's about building that parallel understanding.
Exactly. I'm going to leave you with a final thought from the book. Riker writes, men aren't going extinct. We're waking up. The system cracks when enough of us do.
Powerful words.
Think about that. And maybe ask yourself, if you did walk away from the systems you rely on today, what parallel system would you build tomorrow? We'll see you in the next deep dive.